problem are those darn minorities. Not the ones who arrive in boats, but the ones who arrive in limousines. The elite minority, the top 0.1%. The ones who own the world's wealth and resources. The ones who overthrow democratically elected leaders and send our boys into war zones to liberate oil fields. Speaking of which, did you know Pat Tillman was a U.S. soldier who refused to be a pawn in a game for oil? He began to educate his platoon that they were in fact just guarding opium fields and not defending democracy, as the news would have them to believe. Before returning home, he was shot twice in the head at point-blank range. It was labeled as an accidental friendly fire. By manipulating the media, the 0.1% can convince people to believe nonsense, that you achieve peace through war, that the richest continent on the globe is the poorest, so on and so forth. The media is a tool for division and conditioning. They have successfully managed to convince 99.9% of us to argue amongst each other over labels, terminology, and definitions, which each mean different things to us all. They further instigate this form of political tribalism to keep us from uniting against them. This isn't new. Divide and conquer has been a thing since the Romans and Feds have been doing this ever since African Americans gained civil rights and Africa gained its independence. For instance, in the 60s, FBI would hand out propaganda letters pretending to be from rival communities full of hate speech. They did the same to African tribes. Fred Hampton, a local activist from Chicago, was able to figure out that it was Feds behind this division amongst the citizens in his community. He was able to convince Confederate flag-toting American patriots and Puerto Rican nationalists that they are not each other's enemy and must unite against the ones responsible for the division and instabilities in their communities. After successfully uniting the community, feeding poor children and educating thousands of more, Fred was assassinated by the FBI at the age of 21. Unity amongst the groups they try and divide is what they fear the most. It was leaflets and letters in the 60s. Feds use social media to do it now. Realize the 0.1% is trying its best to keep us all divided and stop us from realizing that the only two sides is us and them. The more you choose to label yourself, the further you distance yourself from other citizens from the opposing label, despite both being part of the 99.9%. Here are the rules of the Blackout Strike Manifesto. Pause to read. By following these steps, you can convince all members of the 99.9% to join the strike, regardless of the political doctrine they are subscribed to. For more info, check theblackoutstrike.com.